Here I am with today's guest. Would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you for inviting me on. I am Sam. I run Moss Wedding Films, and I'm a wedding filmmaker.
I'm going to kick it off with, it's a daft little question. If you only had 5 items to shoot a wedding, what 5 items would those be?
So,
Throwing them into the fire.
Yeah. A7S III. So they're my cameras of choice, so one of those. If I could choose one lens, it would be 75mm. I shoot 90% of a wedding day on a 75mm, so definitely that. Drone, because I love your drone, big epic drone shots. So I'm up to 3. Audio equipment, so although these aren't my primary audio, I'd use a Sony TX660 just because I think they're so versatile.
Yeah.
And I've got one left, haven't I?
One left. There's one thing you are forgetting, but I'm not going to tell you. Putting you to the test here.
I'm not going to take a bag because that's a waste of a... It'll be another lens. I'll take a wide angle. I'll take my Tamron 20-40 wide angle.
Nice.
5.
So, for the speeches and ceremony,
Yeah.
are we tackling that handheld?
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
Yeah.
It's going to be
amazing.
shaky.
It's a bit of a weird question, but to be fair, you answered that better than what I would. I definitely probably wouldn't include drone, I don't think.
Would you not?
I don't know if I would. Maybe I would. The drone, to be fair, to my work, it is essential. It is. Like, you use a lot of drone as well.
Yeah, love them.
It does add the production value, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd choose.
And so, what are your 5?
I don't know. Maybe we'll save that for another episode. I'll think on it. That's what I'll do. So while we're on the topic of gear, I'm getting this one out of the way, as I do with every episode, because I don't want to sort of linger on it too much, because there's plenty of other podcasts out there that explain and go into gear. But just while we're on it, could you please explain the gear that you use to shoot weddings? Maybe we can sort of go into like how that changes and diversifies when you go on destinations. I was saying recently that sort of for destinations, I actually probably end up taking more. Like most people take less, and I go the opposite route. I sort of end up taking more because I'm like, I need the option. I know when I get there, I want to have the option. But so what gear does old Moss Wedding Films use to shoot his beautiful wedding films?
Yep. So it's funny you say you take more. So I reckon 50% of my weddings now are destinations. So I want my kit bag to be exactly the same no matter where I am, if it's a destination or if it's in the UK. So I use the one bag kind of approach, which I know a lot of filmmakers use. So if it doesn't fit my bag, it doesn't come with me.
Right.
And that includes tripods, drones, audio equipment, cameras, gimbals, everything has to fit in one bag.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a squeeze, but I can manage it. So
it weighs a lot as well.
Yeah, absolute backbreaker. I'm a Sony shooter, same as you. I have 3 Sony A7S IIIs.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to stuff like this. So if I have 3 cams, I want them all to be exactly the same. They've all got a Tiffin Black Pro mist filter on, and then they've all got a Hoya variable ND. Again, I don't want any color casts. I don't want anything different. B cam, C cam. I know some people might use APC cameras or a slightly lesser model, but my OCD, I just want everything to look exactly the same. So they're my main cameras. Like I say, I use 75mm all day long, pretty much. I know a lot of...
Sorry to interrupt, but we will get back to that, because that's like, the more I think you get into the industry and you start sort of picking the brains of people that are shooting sort of these, let's call it luxury higher end weddings.
Yeah.
A lot of these shooters do tend to be using not a 50, not an 85, but they seem to be going in the middle with 75.
Yeah.
So we will touch on that a little bit later. But I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, no worries. So 75mm. I do have 100mm for ceremony and speeches for that tight angle. I experimented with a 135, but they're just too big, bulky and heavy, which for destinations, I'm trying to keep everything as light as possible. My wide angle is a 20-40, which is kind of that emergency angle for back of the room ceremony, back of the room speeches. All else fails, cut to that camera and I know I've got a shot. Drone, DJI Mini 4 Pro, just so I don't need to worry about licensing. I think if a couple paid for drone, like if that was a paid extra, I think then invest in a drone op and somebody that's going to be using Inspire or something like that to get that amazing image. But if it's just thrown in with a package and it's me as a solo shooter, a Mini is absolutely fine. So then audio equipment, I'm using the F6 from Zoom to take a feed. Absolutely love that. Can run it for 24 hours, no problem at all. Battery, no issue.
Yeah.
And then I was using the Tentacle Sync Track E lapel mics with the 32-bit.
Are you changed now?
No, I've swapped now. So absolutely love them. But when Tascam brought out the DR10 Pro Ls, they're basically exactly the same but smaller. And for me, again, if a groom's spending a lot of money on a suit and a tuxedo, etc., I want something in his pocket as small as possible.
Yeah.
So I've swapped across to those and then back up TX660s like everyone has in my bag.
He's doing a bit of DJing.
So 4 of them in my bag just as an absolute backup, but I try not to use them now just because the audio quality is nowhere near what you can get from a proper lapel and a feed.
Yeah. No, that's bang on. I think for a backup, they are a saving grace because they're so easy.
Yeah.
You just clip them on and it's you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're putting a lapel on, it's a bit more of a, excuse me, can I borrow you? Can I just put this on you? Then it's the whole,
completely.
I've already got a mic. When you was giving them mic, it's all that conversation. Yeah, it's interesting. But obviously that is, for people listening that are maybe at the newer end, that have just heard all that, and you've just said, this is my minimal kit. They're thinking, what? But I think for them, it's like, it should be said that you have built up your business over. When did you start your business, actually, thinking about it?
I started in, I'd say, my first year, or kind of half the year, 2018. But at this point, I was the complete opposite mindset to what I am now. It was new equipment every week, because I thought the more you spent, the better you were.
Yeah.
Completely wrong. I'd turn up to a wedding with 3 bags. I'd have a bag just for my tripods. I'd have a bag for audio gear. I'd have a bag for my drone. I'd have a bag for my cameras. And it was just too much. It was...
Yeah.
I was constantly upgrading gear, constantly trying to buy new things. And I've now gone for completely 360 and I've stripped it all back. And I'm finally, I touch wood now, finally happy with the equipment I'm using and what I've got. The only thing I've recently upgraded was my tripods. I've gone through maybe 6 or 7 different brands of tripods to be finally happy with the Peak Designs. So I have no plan on changing that.
Yeah.
But I have gone through all the different equipment, going through different lenses, different focal lengths, to now having the one bag approach.
And that's what I was kind of hitting at before, is that you've sort of... This is minimal in a sense, because for the amount of time it's taken you to get to this and all the experimenting you've done, you've honed in on exactly what the items is that you're using and what you're having. So if people starting thinking, oh, well, I've only got like a camera and a lens, then that isn't a lot. But you'll soon find your sort of path, won't you?
I could strip back even more. I've never tried it, but I'm pretty certain I could film a wedding with 1 cam, 1 lens, and 1 TX660 and still make a nice film. Yeah.
But that's also, I reckon, I think you could, easy. But I think the argument for that is obviously you've got all the experience. Yeah. Obviously, we'll get onto this later, but you have similar to myself, you've got sort of points of the day that you've got to capture it in a certain way, or you have a plan of how you like it capturing, which only comes with experience, which is then like when, like you referred to earlier, by A, B, C, and D cams. For people that are new, they probably won't refer to it as that, and they won't understand any of that. So it's, I think for us, we know A cam is important. That's the money shot, so to speak, and that's the one that we want. Definitely, no question. And I think everything else is obviously a lovely extra bonus. But I think when you're new, you kind of, like, I know when I was starting, I would just sort of like gunning. I was just like, trying to capture everything that I could.
Just spraying everywhere.
I suppose we've kind of talked about when you started, but we haven't talked about how and like how you got into it. I know you've got quite an interesting sort of way into the industry. So how did you get into shooting weddings?
Yep. So I got married in 2017, and at this point wasn't involved in the wedding industry, didn't really know much about it.
What were you doing, Sam?
So I was a full-time nightclub DJ before this. Absolutely,
we're loving it.
So kind of filmmaking wasn't something that was really on my radar. When we got married, we're quite kind of, myself and my wife, quite introverted, shy people anyway. So just the thought of having our photos taken was a bit daunting. So we just booked a photographer, and video wasn't something we particularly wanted. as it got closer to the time, friends and family, which I hear these stories all the time now, it's people like, you must get a video, you've got to, you'll regret it.
Yeah.
So we got a videographer. And I don't know, there was just something about it, something different than the photos we got back, which just really intrigued me. And hearing the sounds, actually listening back to your speeches and things like that, I just really liked it. And I was really lucky. So my best friend is a wedding photographer. So obviously I've kind of had a bit of knowledge of the wedding industry. And I basically said, can I come along to a couple of weddings and just give it a go? So I remember the first wedding I shot with him, it was obviously a complete freebie. Hired a couple of GX5s, is it, via Lumix or Panasonic?
Yeah.
And I just became hooked absolutely from that first wedding. Absolutely loved it. So again, really lucky having a friend in the industry. I said, can I come along to a few of your weddings, and I won't charge couples, so I could get a bit of a portfolio together. Yeah. Built up a portfolio, and just went from there really, and never looked back.
Yeah. Here he is today. Yeah, for me, obviously, we're just getting in through like coming out of uni and stuff. So obviously, I'm always really interested. I say this a lot, but I am interested in how people sort of go from sort of one job into this. But yeah, no one wants to hear that. People want to hear about your influences. That's a segue and a half, isn't it? I will literally. It's like forcing two magnets together. Just not going to happen. But yeah, so yeah, I'm interested to know who influenced your work in the early days, who does now, and I'll let you run wild with that question.
Yep. So when I started, like I think probably 90% of filmmakers, Philip White was the obvious choice. Did his online workshop and things like that, and I feel like that really elevated me, and I kind of understood where I wanted to go. I wasn't trying to copy his style, but it was that whole 85 mil, 85 mil.
Yeah, it's the principles.
Simple, kind of how you edit as well. But then I think a couple of years ago, once I kind of built a portfolio I was happy with, I started kind of going away from that and trying to build my own kind of style and look, which I don't really know how I'd describe it now, to be honest. I try not to kind of look at anyone's work and think that's what I want to do, because I think that's when you get in the trouble of just trying to copy someone, and you're never going to be happy because you're always trying to copy somebody else. So yeah, sorry, I don't really answer your question, does it? But that's
no. Well, it's answered another question,
right?
Which were, how would you describe your style? So he's skipped a question, but he's gone for it.
I watch a lot of documentaries and things, and there's one recently I watched which is absolute cinematic genius on Netflix called Ripley. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
no.
Absolutely unbelievable. As a series, I couldn't even tell you. I just look at the cinematography from it. It's black and white, and every frame in that series is just cinematography dream. It's absolutely gorgeous, and they're the sort of things I like to watch, and then put that into wedding films rather than watching other filmmakers' films.
Yeah. So would you say that it's kind of like an adapted? It's your influence in terms of how you view things and how you view weddings. But then in the early days, I suppose it was obviously the Philip White sort of esque sort of style of work that's now adapted into something that's like more how you view things, and you've sort of changed and adapted in a different ways.
Yeah,
like I know that Philip White, it would never, from what I remember, because I never were into the sort of Philip White phase. I think I just sort of missed out on that. But yeah, he were never into gimbals. They were kind of like more minimal, weren't it? Just like two camera bodies, like you said, 85/35, and that were kind of it. Yeah. So, yeah, and I know now you've got drone, you've got gimbal, and there's a lot more to it. But it's how you view the weddings. It's nice to have the variety and the mixture, isn't it?
Yeah. So when I started, like I say, it was more equipment the better. That's how I thought was going to make the best films. Then I went through the kind of Philip White phase of stripping everything back, which was great. Did my films like the world of good, but now I'm slowly being reintroducing the gimbal, the drone, just to create more of a production than a fly on the wall, which is kind of the Philip White style. I feel is fly on the wall, where now I'm a bit more present on a wedding day.
Yeah, and I think there's still a balance to be had, isn't there? Like, it's not like just because you've started using more gear, you're going to be so much more intrusive. Like, I don't think those two go hand in hand necessarily. Yeah. They can do, but I don't think necessarily that, like, just because you use more gear, it automatically means that you're more intrusive. Like, that's how I feel.
Completely agree.
But yeah, because obviously, same with myself, I've introduced the gimbal. I was very similar to you, started out using all the sliders and the kit and everything that went with that. And then obviously then changed and went sort of more minimal. So yeah, but I were approaching it sort of like very, very stripped back at the start. And then just started to think I want more variety again. Like I do like the gimbal shots and I do like the drone shots. And so no, I completely see how, like, I can see how it's improved my films, I think and I still feel like it's not actually, I feel like I'm actually got a better connection with my couple through using more gear. Like, it's not that black and white, but I mean, you're just around more, I think, and you're able to go shoulder to shoulder with the togs, because now they're mainly shooting like 35 or 24 or whatever, so they're getting quite close, aren't they? Yeah. So you're able to sort of work a little bit more in sort of sync with those. So yeah, it does help your work, I would say. So something that obviously that I've noticed over the last few years, like any business, is sort of branding, and things change. I know that you're very brand conscious. Obviously, there's the little stamps on your on your reels that you're committed to. So yeah, maybe chat about that, like your philosophy behind that. And I know that obviously branding is important to you. You've had like a nice logo made and stuff. So just sort of talk to me about that. Talk to me, Terry tips.
So I think branding goes hand in hand on where you position yourself in the market, really. So I think when I started, branding wasn't too important. It was more a case of just putting content out. But I think as you kind of go through, I say the kind of pricing brackets, branding just becomes more and more important. Saying this, it is one thing. I'd say branding is quite weak on my side. It's one thing I want to improve.
That's another question I've got for you as well. He's getting all the questions. He's getting through them all.
Getting them in.
We'll probably be about 20 minutes. It's going to be a 20-minute episode.
In and out.
Oh, that's funny. But just carry on. I mean, we'll leave that in, I think. It's fine. It's fair enough,
I definitely want to improve my branding, but I do think it's really important to.
I think just to like interrupt you. I think your branding is really good. I love your website design, and even like your grading and everything. Like, I really like the whole Moss Wedding Films vibe. Like,
Oh, thank you.
I don't think I've told you this, but I remember like when I first started getting serious, because there were a few years where I was, like I've mentioned, I was still at uni and messing about, sort of playing at weddings, and then when I decided to go serious, I found your work, and your work were a big influence. I really liked. I really enjoyed watching your stuff, and it makes it better that you're from Yorkshire.
Fellow Yorkshireman.
Yeah, fellow Yorkshireman. There's not many are about, So it's nice to see it, and I just wanted to let you know about that.
Oh, thank you, mate.
No worries. Compliment. Not just a podcast episode.
I think you're just always trying to better yourself, aren't you? So I think no matter where you are, I think you always want more. And I think up to the point I'm at now, I've done all the kind of branding, copy on my website and everything, website design and all that kind of myself. And I now feel like my company and brand has got to a stage where I need to outsource it. So I want to book someone, to go through my whole website, emails, things like that, and to completely redo my copy, just to elevate it to that next level. That's kind of where I want to go next, basically.
Yeah, how important do you think branding is then?
Massive.
Because that sounds like a lot of money that would be spent on something like going that in depth. That obviously must be of big importance to you.
Yeah, I think, again, it depends on kind of the price bracket you put yourself in. Yeah. But I think if you're going for those bigger kind of weddings, with high-end planners and things like that, I think branding is huge. If you kind of sat in the middle market, which lots of people are and are happy with that, I don't think it's as important. I think your films can do the talking, but when it comes to that higher end, I think everything has got to be so uniform. Logo, copy, or your Instagram and everything has all got to relate to your website, and that's when I think it becomes really important, when you kind of pushing for those bigger clients.
Yeah. I can't remember what there is a thing about this. There's is is it Ferrari or Lamborghini, something like that, that don't have any advertisement. They don't advertise anything.
Yeah.
Just because the branding is so strong, they don't
Yeah.
need to. So it's one of them. Not
What are you trying to say?
Moss Wedding Films, the next Ferrari. Stick that on your website, mate. There you go.
It's Primark and Prada, isn't it? You go.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
walk past a Primark shop and you'll see 20 mannequins and
What are you looking
100
at mannequins for?
items of clothing. You walk past Prada and you'll see a pair of sunglasses and a t-shirt. Which one's the more luxury, expensive brand?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
one that's hardly doing anything, but then they're the hardest. That's the hardest thing to get right.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. That's what it is as well. And I think that's why a lot of people, myself included, I struggle with it. So I'll probably speak on behalf of people that listen thinking, oh, my branding's not where it should be, because I feel like that. I feel like most of us feel like that, to be honest. I feel like unless you've spent a lot and you've really got in depth and you've got it bang on, some people might do it themselves and get it bang on, but I think it's very hard to do that yourself. But yeah, I feel like it's something it takes time as well, because you don't know what vibe you want. I guess you need to find your style, find your feet in the industry, and then I think all that can come a little bit later. But yeah, how I want something that I'm not actually written down, but something I wanted to ask you about, because you sort of touched on it then, is you've obviously moved more in from doing more, let's say, mid-end weddings to sort of do more luxury weddings.
Yeah.
And how is that different, first of all, to how do they like compare to each other, and what are the differences or similarities, or
Yep. I think stress levels with the higher end weddings is definitely more. But then the higher end, the ones I've kind of touched on, you've always got a planner, so you've always got a point of contact for if you're not happy with something in the running order, or you're not going to the bride and groom, you're not stressing a bride and groom out with question after question. You've got somebody there, and I think that's brilliant. It makes our job so much easier.
Yeah.
If we can say, look, timing wise, we've got speeches split up, but we're going into a speech as soon as the bride and groom have entered a room, and I'm shooting it solo. I need 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Being able to say that to a planner, they can just quickly alter that timeline, and it's done basically, without stressing out a bride and groom. And I think again with the higher end weddings, you've always got a sound guy, so naturally our audio for ceremony and speeches is just going to be better, because we can take a feed rather than kind of the mid-market. You might not, so you're having to individually mic people. That takes more time. They're kind of the big differences, and obviously the more luxury market, you've got bigger budgets for flowers. You've got bigger. It's just going to look. It's going to look better, But
Yeah.
I know it's not. How do I say it without being rude? Like,
No, I know what you're
if
saying.
you've got a big budget, it's just going to look better. It is. There's nothing wrong with the mid market. I was really happy shooting kind of, I'd say, mid weddings for a couple of years. But the luxury stuff is.
Sorry, I've got to
I'm just waffling now, like slagging off.
No, I was just laughing at this when you looked. So yeah, you did kind of answer about like the sort of, I suppose that were the pros that you answered there. You did touch on that. You said it's a bit stressful.
Yeah.
But I guess the stresses. So what are the stresses? So you mentioned the stresses. I guess we'll go with that. What when you're saying stresses, because I feel like even people that are shooting mid-end weddings probably do experience those stresses. But I'll let you answer the question. But yeah, probably not to the same degree. But yeah, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, I think so. 80-90% of the weddings I shoot, I'm still shooting solo. So
is that now? Still now?
Yeah, still now. So for the kind of more luxury weddings, there is more going on, and doing that as a solo shooter, I think, like you say, I've got so much I want to capture, and you've so many ideas. If the bride's making an entrance, you want to get her from a drone, you want to get her from a wide. So setting up all these shots as a solo shooter, but knowing the next moment is going to be happening in 5 minutes' time, but I still want to try and get them.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the stress
100%.
of the bigger weddings come from. But you can obviously get rid of that with second shooters and second cinematographers, which I do enjoy. Obviously your good self with me a couple of weeks ago, which is brilliant, and that does massively help. But obviously it comes at a cost. So yeah, again, then that falls back to obviously your business model, and we are doing this because we want to earn a living.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's finding that balance in it.
Completely.
Like, I've had that, just to like bounce sort of my perspective off this as well. I've had that this year where I've sort of moved more into, I would say, a more luxury market this year. It's been my first sort of year doing it, and yeah, you there's so much more happening. Whilst you do have the introduction of planners. Planners always have these great sort of big ideas of things that they want to do, and normally the timeline is strict. It is it does stick on time, which is great for us, but at the same time it's not, because there's like, well, like, God, we just need another half an hour, we just need another 10 minutes just to be able to set up, especially when you're solo. I've tried to really introduce seconds and really push for seconds, because obviously, like you said, it's just like a saving grace, knowing that you've got another pair of hands, another pair of eyes, and another set of cameras, sort of capturing every moment, and that's kind of how you've got to pitch it to couples and to planners. But yeah, no, I think the luxury market, especially when you're moving into it and finding your feet with it, it can seem quite a daunting and overwhelming task, can't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Have I asked you about destination weddings yet? Actually, on their own? I don't think I have I?
No.
So yeah, I know you obviously. I think you said something interesting at the beginning of this. You said you do like 50%. Did you say?
Yeah, next year is looking 50% will be destinations, which is
that's insane, mate.
A bit scary with
well done.
A family
that's
at home.
Good.
But
yeah, and a farm to run.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the chickens. He's got what have you got on your farm? This is such a weird segue, but I'm keeping it in because it's interesting.
What do we have now?
You've got chickens.
I've got to get this right. 7 horses,
8
sheep, 20 chickens, 2 dogs, and far too many cats.
Far too many cats. But having that many cats means no rats. Hopefully.
Exactly.
So there we go. Solves that problem.
We all live outside in the yard.
We all live outside. We all live in here. It's a beautiful little life. But yeah, no, sorry, go on. Talk to me about your destinations.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to it. The travel and stress of getting there is a little bit daunting. But I don't know. It's just naturally happened, really. I haven't started pushing destinations anymore than UK weddings. They just seem to have
just becoming in
naturally, fallen in. I think I'm similar to you. I cap my number of weddings I take on each year around the 20 mark. And I think at the minute I've got 9 destinations in for next year, which is really looking forward to it. But it's crazy, really.
Where do they include? Where are you off to?
So we've got the Dolomites, an elopement in the Dolomites, which would be nice. Lake Como, Tuscany, a couple in France.
He's thinking.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can see him thinking hard. He's trying to count on his fingers for the audio listeners.
Mainly Italy and France, I think.
It's normally Europe, innit? That's the sort of go-to for, especially when you're in the UK. Yeah. Have you got any sort of? I want to ask you about like any sort of. Has anything ever gone wrong on a destination? I've got stories I've told. I've already spoke about on the podcast. So, but I'll let you sort of go with your.
Touch wood.
Don't tell me you have not got any stories.
Touch wood, destination
wise. I refuse to believe it.
No, but so
it's too safe. It's too calculated.
I go out for too long, really. So, if the wedding's on a Saturday, most people are going to travel on the Friday. I travel on the Thursday.
Oh no, I do.
To be safe. I know people
always
that
have
would
a day
travel
buffer
on the Friday. Even in the afternoon, which scares the living daylights out of me.
100%.
So at the minute, touch wood, I take only hand luggage because I'm too paranoid of putting cases in the hold. I don't want to, I want to be able to see my case above me. So that eliminates kind of lost luggage. Like I say, travel the day before. Yeah. So worst case scenario, flight gets cancelled. You've still got 24 hours to get yourself there.
To get sorted.
But touch wood, I've had no issues.
Well, I'm hoping
next year I'm coming back to you.
Come back on next year after because the statistics are higher, 50% more next year. So I'm hoping we've got a story for next year. But I suppose you said that you weren't really pushing for destinations as well, which is interesting. The fact that you've got so many more destinations. Yeah. So I wonder what's in the air there.
Yeah, I know. They obviously say, don't they, only show what you want to shoot, and so my Instagram, I'm quite selective on what I put on there, and there is probably 50% destinations on there. So maybe it's come from that. I'm not really sure. But like I said, I do love shooting destinations. I think they look great, don't they? As long as you've got the weather, you put the drone up. Pretty much every venue is going to look
Yeah.
It's going to look great.
The work's been done for you, especially because
Yeah.
it's fresh to you. I suppose if like you're a supplier out there, or you're someone that's a let's just say you're a videographer out there, and we might be buzzing over like a shot of like a Lake Como sort of venue or whatever.
Yeah.
But they might be like, it's just like same.
It's what it is.
Same everywhere for us. Yeah. But I think that's the exciting thing for us, because I think that goes into our work then, because we're so excited.
Yeah.
To be there, and it's fresh. Everything looks fresh to us, like palm trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's nice weather. You're just it puts you in a good mood, and I think that all then translates into making a better film. Until you start shooting and you're sweating tits off. I sweat in England, so when I'm at these weddings, so you better believe I'm sweating in 30 degrees. So because you've mentioned that you've not got any sort of stories from destinations, I'm gonna flip it back round. He's gone backwards. He's gonna go and ask you, have you got any sort of interesting stories to tell us? It can be good or bad. From the UK.
Again, I don't want to disappoint you, but
It's too safe.
Touch wood, nothing has gone wrong. My CRM is everything, for like bookings, and so I'm dyslexic, so I struggle with like
Sorry, I shouldn't
dates
laugh.
and
It's
names.
just the way you looked at me. you were smiling. Again, for the audio listeners, he was smiling when he said it.
But I think for
Love all your dyslexia.
the fear of double booking a date always petrifies me, and without having a CRM to kind of double check if I get a lead come in, and I did have one recently.
Just calendar, mate. Just write it down.
I couldn't
Post-it
do it.
note on your computer.
No, but I did have one recently, and I think I've already told you about it, and I almost double booked a date because of travel. So
which can happen though. Like it's just nature of the job. I think. At the end of the day,
I just hate to tell a couple that I am available
and then not.
Have a call, and then suddenly find out actually I'm traveling for a wedding the following kind of day. So they're the big things really that I try to avoid. But touch wood, I've never actually come into any problems.
We're gonna go over sort of still sticking on a negative subject. So we're gonna go over, if you're happy to, your pros and cons of the job. I guess you could view it like the worst parts and the favourite parts, however you want to look at it. So I guess we'll always start with negative first, because it's just the way forward, isn't it? So what are some of the things, the aspects of the job that you don't like? And be honest.
The travel gets to me a little bit. I think even for UK weddings, I've only had one wedding this year that I haven't needed a hotel for. So even UK weddings, it's 3 days. Like my last wedding was Bournemouth, Dorset, so they're 6-7 hour drives.
Which, as we mentioned before, we're fully fledged Yorkshiremen.
Exactly.
So we don't really like to leave our town.
So that's a big negative. Work-life balance has its pros and cons in itself. Being at home is great, but then that also has its negatives. I've got a 3-year-old at home running around. If he runs into my office and wants to play, of course I want to play with him. Which is a pro and a con in itself. I guess that's what I mean.
It's
they're the biggest negatives, I'd say, to a job: travel and trying to balance that.
Home,
work-life balance.
Because it is difficult, especially when. I mean, I see a lot of photographers, and the beauty of photography is that because there's no audio aspect, they can meet up and they can go to. And I see photographers go for like little coffee shop dates and not dates, but you know what I mean, like they're editing days and stuff like that. And they're meeting up and they're sort of working. They'll do like a few hours and they're chatting and still working. Whereas we, as videographers, we just don't have that advantage, do we? We don't have that luxury of being able to just. I suppose we could, but it'd be very antisocial. There'd be no point. We'd just be sat there.
I literally have to lock myself in a dark office, turn the lights off so I'm not getting that glare, close the curtains because I don't want to see glare.
And just be like,
and lock
in.
the door. But then again, work-life balance, sometimes, because it's a very creative job and the editing is creative, you're not creative 24/7. If
Absolutely.
at 2 a.m. you suddenly think that's going to make an epic intro to a film, you've got to do it at 2 a.m. Because you might think, I'll do that tomorrow, and then tomorrow that creative has gone. So that can be difficult, but again, it has its pros and cons. You are at home, you're not. You haven't got a 9 to 5 in an office.
it's interesting you mentioned that. I think most people, when I ask that question, will probably say that, because that is the one thing that, like, I struggle with, and I think most of us do. The sort of, when you're working from home, it's so hard because it's hard sometimes to switch off and sort of differentiate between sort of, I've got like a bit of an office upstairs in one of the bedrooms. So when I wake up, I'm sort of waking up out of my bedroom, having a shower. I might go to the gym, come back, and I'm in the room next door to where I sort of sleep. And it feels sometimes it can feel, especially in the winter months as we're heading into now, it gets tough because you sort of feel like you're cooped up. You get a bit of cabin fever almost, and it gets a bit like, oh, I just want to get out and I don't want to be doing this. And like you said, when you're in that rut as well of like just in a routine, like the job is so drastic in terms of 1 minute it's summer, you're here, there and everywhere, you're flying in and out, it's exciting, you're on cloud nine, you're loving it, and then you're trapped in a room over winter just editing, and it's very like, goes from like, whoa, to like, this is shite. So yeah, I do think that is a really tricky part, and it's just finding a balance, which, to be fair, I'm still trying to find a balance in that myself. Like I'm still struggling with like knowing how to balance it. You know, it is a tough one. But yeah, to stop people being crying that's listening, and they've gone, oh, bugger this, it's depressing. They might be on the way to a wedding or whatever they're doing. But yeah, that's funny. Sat there editing, thinking it's talking about me right now. But yeah, so I guess to flip it round, what are the positives? What are the things that absolutely is like that you love about doing this?
Obviously, the positives way outweigh the negatives. Otherwise, 100%. We won't be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, I love the actual wedding day. You know, at the end of the day, you're invited to someone's best day of their life, really. You know, and that's amazing. You know, seeing a lot of the weddings I do are kind of foreign couples, so you might have some American and UK families meeting for the first time, and seeing that and being able to capture it just gives me a massive high. Seeing the laughter, the tears, the cries, you know, I just think that's amazing. And then the reaction to films after you've delivered them, that gives me such a buzz. You know, as soon as you deliver the films and you get an email back from your bride and groom, you know, fingers crossed, they love it. But that gives me such a buzz, and I think that's why we do it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
It's almost like a relief, though, for me sometimes. They go, oh, I love it. I think, oh, thank God for that.
After you've been watching the same film on repeat for like 5 days.
Like any industry, and I always say this, like any industry, any job that you have, even if you've got the best job in the world, I don't care who you are, you will find something to moan about, because it's human nature. You just do find stuff to moan about. Like you've said, the beauty of the job is that sometimes if you aren't feeling creative, it's not like sort of a more corporate, commercially job where you've got to show up to an office and edit. Like, if I don't feel the sparks there, I just don't edit. Like, I just go away for an hour, walk the dog or whatever, and come back and think, oh, try and view it a bit later. Or sometimes you just write off a day. You think, I'm just not feeling it today. Like, it's not going to happen, and there's no point trying to force it. You know. I
know we've just whinged about working from home, but that is also a massive plus, isn't it?
Of course it is.
If you want a day off, if you want to take the kids to the seaside or whatever, you can do. Like, you couldn't do that in a normal job. So that is a massive pro.
Talking about positives with business. I'm segueing. I'm trying. I need to get better at this. I'll just say the question. I'll say it with a slightly different voice. You've entered TWIA quite a few times.
Yep.
I've got quite a few questions around this because it's something that I know that's quite a hot topic at the minute. People are sort of talking about awards. Are they worth it? Are they not? Or the pros and cons of them, I guess. So you have won it a fair amount of times. How many times have you won TWIA?
I entered the first 4 years of business.
I think you've got a 100% success rate. Have you not?
So I was really
really
I was really lucky. Well, not lucky, obviously. But yeah, I won the 4 years I entered. I won, which Over the Moon with the regional. Is it Yorkshire and North East? Is our region? I think
it's something like that. Yeah.
So they
Which,
were
by
massive
the way,
for my career.
what the hell? Like, I just want to say this for a minute. Like, when I've only ever entered, I think I've entered once or twice.
Yep.
And this was a fair few years ago. I want to say probably 21, maybe before that. Actually, I can't remember, but I think it might have been before. But anyway, so I have entered before, and I just want to say, what the hell is it with this? Yorkshire takes up most of the England.
Yeah.
Why is we then lumbered then with Newcastle lot as well? Why can't they have their own category? Give me a bit more chance. Come on. That's why I'm saying it. But yeah, no, I remember. I think I went to one of them, and this was before we were sort of like palling and chatting.
Yeah.
And I remember. I'm sure you must have won that one. It might have been 21. I think.
Right.
Maybe. I remember being like, where the fuck is he?
There is 1 year I couldn't go to, which was good, so I had to watch it at home. But yeah, so that will be the year.
Yeah. But yeah, how have you found it though with entering like for your business? Obviously, I know people do say that it has helped them, so there's a reason why
massively.
So many people must enter it, and it is, regarded as one of like the more, I don't know how to word it, more I guess accurate sort of awards where it's it's judged fairly, judged as fair as it can be,
So I entered first year of business. I entered not expecting anything, just online on Instagram. Everyone was doing it, and I just thought that's what you did. If you're a wedding filmmaker, this is what you do. You enter these awards, and I wasn't expecting anything from it. And I got best newcomer and best kind of videographer in our area, which just blew my mind. But it massively. I was then getting inquiries saying, "Oh, we found you from TWIA's website. Oh, we see you just won TWIA in our region." And back then, when I started, I was branding myself.
We've been looking for a Newcastle-based wedding videographer.
Well, I was branded when I started. I was Yorkshire wedding videographer. That was all my branding. Instagram, all my socials, website. It was all Yorkshire-based.
Yorkshire.
Because that's what I thought I wanted, and that's what I thought you did. So I was getting loads of people coming to me saying, "We've seen you won the Yorkshire area, are you available?" So the amount of bookings and work I got, excuse me, from, I need to clear my throat again now.
It's getting emotional. I can't believe I've won it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I've won best newcomer and best.
But yeah, they were massive, like I say. So the following 2-3 years, I just kept entering because I thought, why not?
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how I managed it, but just bit of luck,
back to back.
I kept getting them. Never, unfortunately, got the national, which would have been a cherry on top of the cake. But it got to a point where
I just won it too many times. I just thought.
I think again depends on where you put yourself in the market. I think they can really help, and I was doing them when I was, I'd say, in that kind of mid market. They massively helped bookings. They massively helped me kind of get where I needed to be. Yeah, so there's no reason why I stopped entering. It's just I kind of feel like my business had kind of not moved away from it because I still think there's a place for it. Yeah. But I feel like I'm now getting the bookings I want without the need to kind of enter the awards, which I entered them to help, push bookings, and it wasn't necessarily, I wasn't entering because I wanted to kind of impress peers and things like that. It was literally a business decision. I think this can help. Where now, like I say, I'm in a kind of fortunate position. I'm getting the inquiries and I'm getting my bookings in. So I just, the last 2 or 3 years I haven't entered.
Yeah, I think it's one of them, isn't it, where you don't need to, you get to a point within your business where I think in the early days it's seen as like a boost to like project your business and to show it to the world a little bit more, getting with other suppliers to like say I'm here sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it gets to a point, and I don't know if this is controversial or not. I don't know if I'm going to get cancelled for this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. But I do feel like TWIA is great for suppliers and the industry, no doubt about it. Absolutely is great. But sort of harking back to what we said before about it being a little bit more there's no right or wrong way to say this. I'm just going to go for it. So there is a mid-end, there's a mid category within wedding filmmaking, and I do feel like TWIA sort of attracts people at mid-end. Yeah. I feel like when you're in a luxury market, I don't think it particularly matters to couples if you're an award winner or not, firstly. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, completely. I've taken it all. So off my website, I had, the badges and everything, and all that's come off my website. Because like you say, the clients I'm trying to attract and trying to find, they don't care.
Yeah, it maybe also projects the wrong message as well. I think to a mid-end, sort of growing up in a really working class household in a working class environment, people would love they'd show off. So if they booked you and you're in a and it got our videographer's an award winner,
Completely.
And they chat about it. Whereas in a luxury market, they're not interested. They're not that bothered. They just want to see the work is good. It's more about the work and the branding, like we've touched on, and sort of I think it leans into more of all of that more than sort of just because you've got a winner, just because you're a winner of some sort of wedding awards that know. So that's what I would say about it. I think it's not essential, but I think if you're starting out and if you just want some recognition, if you just want to think, right, my work's, I want to know
at a level.
Yeah, I just want to know where my work's at, and you just
I do think it was brilliant. Like I say, that the years I entered, absolutely loved it. It massively benefit
the
my
evenings
work.
that they put on as well, like the little events. It's great. Like I'm not knocking it. I just think they have their target audience, and I think yourself. I think you've grown out of it. Probably your business has grown away from it. This is the trouble. The question's there.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make it sound less
like it's not
come out of my gob.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've wrote it like someone that's in year 5. So someone that is starting out, what advice would you give them? But I guess what I need to say with this is you do also offer mentoring.
Yep.
So I don't want you to feel like this is a free mentoring session.
No.
But what are your principles, I guess? What would you say to someone that's first starting out, that's maybe not even shot a wedding, or is very, very new, only shot maybe 8 weddings, let's say, or less, or sort of in that newbie phase?
Yeah.
Sam Moss, over to you.
First thing, less is more. When it comes, everything, equipment. Like I say, when I started, it was the more the better. Again, even when editing, the clips I was using were so small because I was trying to use every single clip, and it just feels too rushed. So I definitely think less is more when it comes to, like I say, equipment and edits. So that's the first thing. And also, awards, I know we've just touched on it, but if you're just starting out, I think that's a great way, especially with Twitter. The fact that you after the awards have been, you get all your kind of feedback from clients. And that helped me no end in those early years, being able to see, majority of it is great, which is positive, but then, it does ask questions, what would you change? And you get good constructive criticism, and that massively, again, helped. I think awards and less is more for someone starting out.
Would you say, how do you feel about networking? Do you think that's important?
Yes and no. I think just I know a lot of people will send out blanket emails to planners and things like that. I don't think that works anymore. I think if you work with a photographer and you get on with them, that's when the networking aspect really counts. Stay in touch, because that's when you start getting referrals and things. But I think just sending blanket template emails out to planners isn't the way to go anymore. I know a few people say, speak to planners and just put your name forward. But I think planners they'll just get bombarded by these kind of weekly. I don't think that's worth trying, really. It's just building your own network with people you work with naturally. Yeah.
I was going to sort of suggest as well, maybe I would sort of add to that and say reaching out to other videographers. That's something that I never did until fairly recent.
I
had this mentality of, maybe it was more naivety because of my age, but I was just I don't need to make videographer mates. They're not the suppliers at weddings when I'm there that I need to network with. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I was coming from. And I thought, I can just just stick in my own lane sort of thing. But I would say in the last 2-3 years of networking with other videographers, that has helped my business tenfold. I feel more confident than ever about my work. You pick up things off one another, you share things, and it's nice to have a network of people that you can just message on a WhatsApp and say, what do you think to this? And they can give you a bit of constructive criticism and just be nice about it and reassure you that you're doing all right. And it's just having that, you get to discuss things and problems and issues that, it's you can't chat to your missus about or your partner about or whatever. So yeah, I would definitely say reaching out to other videographers and just making friends.
Yeah, I like that. We're all in the same boat, aren't we?
Yeah,
so we're all doing the same thing. So yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So one of my last questions I've got for you, old Moss boy, is what are your concerns for the future of wedding videography?
I'm going to start with one that isn't a concern to me, but I think it's a concern for other videographers, and I see it in groups all the time. Content creators. Yeah, which I see it in so many groups, and kind of videographers not whinging, but are they taking our jobs, and people aren't going to. But I just don't think weddings are here to stay. Everyone's always going to get married.
Yeah.
You're always going to want photos. You're always going to want a video. I think the content creator kind of phase at the minute, I have nothing against content creators. I've worked with a few and it's been absolutely fine. But I don't think it's going to stick like photography and videography does. So yeah, I don't think that's a concern. And I don't think there really is any concerns, because you're always going to get married and you're always going to want photo video.
Fair enough.
So that's a really quick, boring answer, but I just don't think I don't think there are any concerns.
Yeah.
What would you say is a concern to the industry? Just
he's flipping it round.
Yeah.
He's done a 180 on me. Well, I don't know, because I've not even really thought about it myself, so I'd struggle to answer that. And I'm interested in hearing from other people, because it's a bit of a baity question, but I did think you would say content creators. So I'm sort of asking this to everybody that sort of comes on, and it's a question that I feel like it's just as we look forward to the future of weddings, like how do you think it maybe is going to change? I guess that is a better question to ask, like how do you think it'll adapt and change? So obviously there's the advancement of like AI, stuff like that coming on, and the content creator thing is, it's here, and you do see people moaning about it, but it's one of those things where when video came along, it weren't like gate crashing photos, and in the same way, I don't think that like content creation is gate crashing us either. Like, it's two completely separate things, and I think it depends on how the content creator works. Much like how photo and video work together, just adding one more extra person in there. Although it is a lot if you've got like two photo, two video, and then a content creator, there's 5 of you all of a sudden. Like, it is quite a lot of people. But I don't think they're stepping on our toes, because what they're capturing is more a general BTS of the day from like a guest perspective, whereas what we're trying to get is more of like a fine-tooth combed, creative sort of film of the day, where it's like selective. Whereas content creation, there is a skill to it, but at the end of the day, they are walking around with an iPhone, like they are walking around and just capturing almost like BTS.
I would much rather have a content creator on my shoulder with a camera than a bridesmaid with a camera. It takes the pressure off bridesmaids, family and things to have their phones out. Yeah. Which that is a bugbear of mine. Brides walking down an aisle, you've always got Uncle Bob or somebody with a phone.
Yeah.
So if a content creator, if a bride and groom can say to friends and family, we've got a content creator as well, please keep your phone in your pocket, then I would much rather have a content creator than have guests with phones out. So I think that's...
Because generally the content creator will know the law of
how to work
around photo video, whereas bridesmaids, like you said, it's typically a bridesmaid that will be getting BTS or like a maid of honor or whatever, and they kind of end up getting in the way, or the placing themselves on the opposite side where we need to be shooting, so it just gets tricky. But
I don't feel like they're a threat to wedding videography in general.
I don't think they are, but I think people do think that they are. I think maybe we're thinking that as well, and I will point out the elephant in the room, because we're at a sort of price range where it's not going to be a decision maker. It's not going to be they're not going to choose us over and choose them over us, is what I'm trying to say. So because we're sort of charging a certain amount where the if they're there, they're going to be there as well as. It's not going to be because one or the other. But I feel like if you're at a lower or mid end, if you're at that price range, I get it. It could be seen as a bit of like they're more affordable. Yeah. If it's 200 quid difference, but they're just going around with phone and they're going to get sent all the footage, like the couple might be like, oh, I'm more swayed to book that. So I do understand it from that perspective. But yeah, so I think we do have the benefit of knowing that we're in a different sort of market where we can relax on it a bit more and we're a bit more chilled with it. But yeah, obviously we've sort of talked about your progression and everything, and I feel like in the last sort of, I'm going to say for you, like in the last sort of 3 years as well, like your work's just gone boom, and you've sort of gone into a space now where you're also doing education yourself, I guess, to some degree you are. Yeah. So you're doing mentoring and stuff. So how did that come about? And feel free to plug it and chat about it. And
so I started at the start of this year. It's not something I thought I wanted to do or go down. I was just getting messages, from other filmmakers on Instagram. Is it something you offer? Do you do it? And I thought about it for probably a good 12 months. I
thought you were going to say 12 minutes. No. I thought about it for a good 12 minutes, and I thought, you know what? Absolutely.
No, well, as we said before this podcast, I am a massive introvert. Like, I am a shy, quiet person.
Yeah, can we just talk about that for a minute? Off camera, you were saying that you were so like reserved and shy. You've been the opposite of that now. You're absolutely fine.
And do the same on a wedding day. You put on not a persona, but I feel like I can turn it off a little bit on a wedding day, because I feel like you can't be, unless you are that fly on a wall. Yeah. And you don't want to talk to your couple. You don't want to talk to bridesmaids and things like that, which isn't me anymore. I want to be involved. I don't go to the extent of being one of the girls, in the morning, which I know some people.
I'd love to see that.
But some people do that, don't they? And that's great.
Some people really integrate themselves into that sort of posse. They're like the bridesmaids posse. Yeah, it's mainly photographers that I've seen do that. To be fair. Yeah. But I feel like because they're like more of like we always say, don't we? Like they're more like the director of the day. If there's no planner, it's often the photographer is more the lead of the day. Yeah. And we can sit back a little bit and sort of piggyback. But yeah, I feel like we don't need to, and we often can't. Like we can't be sort of energetic and blah, and then be getting like nice sort of like clean footage. Whereas a photographer can sort of be a bit more live and then go and sort of take some photos quickly. So I think it's different. But yeah. No, sorry, you were on about
So, we're going to mentoring, weren't we?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I've done it again, mate. We've gone down the old road. We've gone down it.
So yeah, that's why it took me quite a while to think, no, actually, I do want to do this, but I do it in a way of it's just Zoom calls, and how I kind of say, if someone approaches me and says, do you do mentoring? Yes, but the Zoom calls are just basically exactly this. It's an open conversation. Nothing is kind of planned. I don't sit down and work out lesson 1, lesson 2, kit. Yeah. It's just a complete open conversation where I'm an open book. If you've got questions about specific topics, brilliant. If you just want to chat and just get general advice, brilliant. I don't want anything structured just because that's not me. But I've loved doing it. I've had a few people that have done kind of like every other week, or we've checked in monthly on calls, and it's great. But just being asked in the first place, obviously a massive compliment. So that's a bit of a buzz in itself. But if I can help someone, amazing.
Yeah. It's quite like a bit of a full circle moment, isn't it, for you, I guess, from like starting and then passing that info back on, like winning the awards, and then winning them too many, you had to stop doing it, and then just saying, right, here you go, I'll teach you how to win an award. That's what you should do education class on.
But again, going back to what we previously said, like a few of the people I've had with mentoring, I have suggested to you, do it just to see what your couples are saying, and if you want not recognition, but you need someone to tell you what you're doing is good. That's it. You've got self-doubt, then Twitter is the way to go. I think it's brilliant for it.
And it's other perspectives as well, like they come to you for mentoring, but someone else will review their films and sort of maybe tell them something opposite. And I think that's a good thing, because just because you say something doesn't mean that even if I were to do it, just because we're saying it doesn't mean it's like the golden ticket and you've got to stick to it. Yeah. You're just going to find what works for you, because I'm sure there's things within our businesses that we both do completely different, but that works individually for us. Do you know what I mean? You've got to find your style, your space, and how you sort of fit into that.
Yeah, I say that on every call I have. I start off with everything I say is not right. You know, I'm just coming from a place of this is how I do it.
End call. They've left the chat.
But do you know what I want people to challenge me. You know, if I say I really like this shot, but I'd have done it differently, I want them to say, well, actually,
that's interesting. Yeah,
I've shot it this way because. Yeah. And a few times, you know, we've had that backwards and forwards, and
which is healthy. That's quite a healthy way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah, you don't want someone just to come on a call and to copy you outright.
No.
Because, like you say, that's where you get, I suppose, going back to the Philip White, there was hundreds of mini Philip Whites running around,
yeah.
Because that's all they wanted to do, just carbon copy someone, which I don't think's healthy.
No, I think it sort of, I don't know how to, maybe dilutes your brand a little bit as well. If you've got a lot of other people sort of coming through the woodwork, hopefully you'd like to think that people would recognise that, you know, your work's at a standard and someone else that you're mentoring's at a certain standard.
Yeah.
And but to some couples, they just think, well, we can get sort of that for cheaper, so they're just going to go with that. And that's what you don't want too much of. You want people to... The reason you're doing mentoring is not to make, like you said, a carbon copy. You're doing it to sort of educate and say, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it necessarily like this, but this is the way I would do it, and, you know, try it and see how you feel. Yeah. And
I'm still learning.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, it's like you're sat here saying, oh, you know, I'm this Yoda figure. And I'm like, I've got all the wisdom. But yeah, you're at a certain standard and you've been doing it for a long time. So there's things that people that are just joining now won't know or understand. And you can give it them quicker. That's one thing that I would actually say. How would you say is it different now for people starting now than when we started in sort of 2017? How would you say is it different now for people getting into it?
I suppose social media is obviously bigger. When I started, Instagram advertising wasn't really a thing. It was all SEO, Google Ads, where I've switched off Google Ads now, probably 18 months ago, and now I just run Instagram. So I think, advertising on social platforms has changed. I wouldn't even... Yes, it's good to have a good website now, but I don't think that you need to put all your eggs into, you know, Google Ads and getting that SEO bang on. I think money is better spent on social media and Instagram. Again, when I started, Facebook was a big one.
Yeah.
Now I think my Facebook, I deactivated it just because I haven't used it for 2 years, and I thought, why is it there?
Why is it there?
So I think that's the only kind of big thing that's changed, really, is how you advertise, promote yourself, and kind of push yourself on social media. I think the actual filming side and weddings are pretty similar. I don't think much has changed really since starting. I don't know, have you found...
I don't think the sort of filming's changed. Obviously for me, it's changed, and you'll feel the same. It's changed in a way that, like, I feel I'm working so much harder now. Like, when I first started, I was very, very chilled, and I was probably the easiest photographer to work with in the world because I was just so relaxed about everything. And I just didn't really approach it with a sense of, I guess, urgency and like, I've got to get this. And whereas now I've got to tick more boxes. But I feel like for people getting into it, what I've said this before, but what I think has changed a lot is this open conversations, podcasts, education, mentoring. Yeah. How quote unquote easy it is for people to gain quick traction on Instagram.
Yep.
And there's a lot more sort of styled shoots, there's a lot more workshops that you can, even destination workshops, and like you can quickly build up a portfolio that makes you look like you know, you're a 5-time TUI winner.
But again, so that I think has its pros and cons as well. Like you see so many, I think it's more photography wise where it's just style shoot after style shoot, which I think style shoots are great. But then if that puts you instantly into a luxury market and you've not had the experience of starting, you know, and working your way up to it, I think that has a bit of a negative effect. But like I say, saying that, I do think style shoots are great, and especially when you're learning, you're new, I would 100% recommend them. You can't just show style shoots. because I don't think that's fair on a couple then booking you, and you might be great for getting portraits and stuff you would want in your portfolio.
Yeah.
But a wedding day, you want to see bridesmaids getting ready. You want to see grandma hugging Auntie Sheila. You know, all those moments, which if you haven't got the experience, you're not going to be looking for that, and you're not going to capture it.
Yeah. We love a good Auntie Sheila, whatever you said.
When I started, you know, bridal prep, for example, if she's got a nice pair of Jimmy Choo shoes or something and they're in a box, that'd be great, and I'd capture her putting them on exactly where she puts them on, and I wouldn't say anything because that kind of bit more fly on the wall. Where now, you see a nice pair of shoes.
It's the confidence though as well. I think that's probably it's the you feel awkward. You feel awkward asking them to move or reposition.
Where now I wouldn't ask a bride to move because I still try and be discreet, but before she puts them on, I'll get that pair of shoes, I'll take them out of the box. There's a lovely kind of seat in some nice window light. I'll put the shoes next to that seat in the window light. So when the bride goes, right, I need to put my shoes on, where shall I put them on? I don't need to ask her because I've put the shoes there.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've learned, or experience has taught me, all these little, you're kind of micromanaging the morning without people knowing you're micromanaging it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
And I think that's only experience can kind of teach you that. Until
someone says,
where are my shoes?
Where did I put my shoes? And someone just goes and gets them, goes, here you go, love. And then Sam's going, oh, for God's sake. I put them there for a reason. Yeah, that's funny. I've not thought about doing that myself. I would probably be the guy that just says, oh, it's a nice bit of light over here. Can we just, are you all right just to sit here? And if they say no, they say no. I always say, like, you don't have to. It's just a bit nice. And try and be like, oh, I'm a wise guy. It's nice. You know, just
I think I would ask now, but if I can get her to put the shoes on in that nice light without saying anything,
then that's a win-win. Yeah.
Because then
she's not thinking, oh, it's like a thing.
When you do some portraits, something with some really nice light, and you ask her to move there, it's not like, oh, you've been asked all day, I've been asked to move, and it's just subconscious, isn't it?
What are some of the misconceptions that people have of your job, or you think that they might have, of doing wedding videography full time?
Yep. So I get this quite a lot with the mentoring. That all I shoot is these luxury high-end weddings, which I wish it was, but it's not the case. I very much in my mindset of only show what you want to shoot. So again, my kind of social media presence and stuff is maybe 30-40% of the work I do. Not that there's anything wrong with the weddings that I don't share.
I think that's it, innit? That's what you've got to touch on.
It's not my...
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with, like, I'm just thinking if like a couple listens and they're like, oh, why is my wedding not on someone's photography page or video page? It's not, you're not to blame. It's just like, it's just where, you know, a particular business has got an idea of what its branding is, and your wedding might just not fit that particular branding. Exactly, and that's all it falls down to. Yeah. It's not like anything personal, is it? You know,
no,
as you know yourself.
Yeah, that's the only thing, you know. I get people on a call and I'll be like, how are you only shooting destinations in, you know, Lake Como and all these amazing venues? And a lot of the time people are surprised when I'm like, that isn't all I shoot. You know, it's I still do local weddings. They're still great. It's just I don't show it, and that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah, interesting. And the other thing I want to chat to you about is sort of this whole, which I'm finding really interesting, talking to videographers about, like the whole vertical filming style. So like the thing with that is obviously on the day, it's no secret to me and you that occasionally we flip the camera. We shoot in like a portrait mode, like a photographer would have that lovely perspective that we don't have, but we do for Instagram now. And so what do you think to all that? Do you think that that's impacting the industry? And like, obviously for me, I think it's impacting what I'm showing, because I'm very conscious when I'm shooting on a wedding that I potentially might use this for the reel as well on Instagram, and I might be flipping it so I guess there's a question in there somewhere, mate. I
it's just a chat about it, really. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I've only started utilising Instagram properly, I think, 18 months ago. Up until that point, I'm a videographer but didn't have a single video on my Instagram. I was just posting screen grabs, and and not very good ones at that. I wasn't utilising Instagram for what I do now, so I started creating reels. But like you say, when we're shooting, having to crop in to create a vertical reel, it never looks as good. You know, the resolution, even though filming in 4K, it doesn't look as crisp.
You're zooming into that image like 4 times, aren't you? Almost. You know.
Where now pretty much every wedding I will shoot a handful of clips vertical for the sole reason I know I can't use that in my films, but for my social media and it's brilliant. But I will always make sure I get the safety shot first, horizontal, because that is what they want.
Yeah.
But I'll do it throughout the whole day, drinks reception and things like that. If I'm shooting something and it looks great, I'll make sure I get the moment horizontal for the films, and then I will stay there, flip the camera up horizontal.
Yeah.
Vertical even, sorry.
Yeah.
And capture exactly the same clip, but in that vertical format for Instagram, because it's advertising, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And I think it's brilliant for it. So yeah, I will shoot a lot of a wedding day vertical as well as horizontal.
Yeah, it definitely helps on Instagram, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I found it helps massively. Like the quality just looks, because people have actually got in touch in the past and asked me, why are you doing something different when you're uploading to Instagram? Like, why does the quality look so much better than ours? And I'm like, well, that's because a little trick up my sleeve, sunshine.
Yeah, exactly the same.
But yeah, I don't think there's still people. You see videographers that clearly don't do it on Instagram because it also helps for composition. So whilst there's obviously a selfish aspect to it, which is like, we're going to get it for our Instagram. Like you said, always get the safety shot, always get it sort of widescreen, so to speak, in normal aspect ratio, and then flip it. But you tend to find that Instagram is pushing more vertical content more than uploading like, a film. I would say it's easier to view. People can see it. People are consuming that more now with TikTok.
Yep.
And I don't think it's I don't think it's a big sort of issue on the day for me. I think it actually helps. Like I was saying, for composition, like you can sort of get the shot that you actually want for the edit for that reason.
Yeah. Obviously, key moments, confetti, bride walking down the aisle, things like that.
Yeah.
You're never gonna
flip it
for that. But those little moments, cropping in and zooming in, mixed with other footage, I still think looks great.
So I kind of like to think I get away with it slightly because you do it during the drinks, like you just said, drink reception, whereas I never do. So I try where I can to get stuff like portraits, for example. I do it for portraits, I do it for prep, and that's about it really for me. Portraits and prep, and then everything else is kind of all the other moments that I know that I'll probably use are probably shot on a gimbal. So like for dancing, I'll be shooting probably on a 24, and then for like confetti and things like that, like a bride and groom entrance into the room, I'm probably always wider. So when I crop in, when I'm shooting those shots on the day, I'm sort of bearing in mind, I'm trying to think about how it looks widescreen and how it looks vertically, and sort of position them in the middle of the screen so that it just means I can just crop in and easier. I don't have to think about it too much. But that's definitely something that I've implemented into my shooting style, is like partly the reason why I love using the gimbal so much these days is because one of how you can sort of approach certain situations like shooting details, but I love the aspect of being able to know that I can use this in the film and crop in and use it for the vertical stuff, which I find is interesting for me.
Yeah, even drone. So all my kind of scene setter drone stuff I'll do twice. I'll do horizontal and vertical. With the Mini 4, you just click a button and it will flip the camera around. Yeah,
I've seen you doing that recently when we worked together. Because obviously that's a feature that I know and use, but I always think, I'll just punch in, I'll just crop in, and then. But I've started since doing that with you. I now just double up as well, because it is handy to just have that extra shot that is sort of the full quality. It's the full quality, isn't it? Yeah. And at the end of the day, I say it was selfish, but it's not in a way, because we're trying to put out the best version of our work that we can. So it's sort of the couples will be, when couples are looking at it, whilst they're not getting that particular clip, they are getting that moment because we've shot it as well.
I think as well, quite a lot of my couples, especially this year and next year, have added on the enhancement of a vertical Instagram film.
Yeah.
So, I need to shoot that way. They've paid for it as well, so it's kind of win-win.
We're not going to linger on it too much, but you don't have to go into pricing. I don't want to put you through that because that's you might not be comfortable with it. So, but what are your sort of what your layout in terms of when people get in touch? What you're greeting them with? Do you have a brochure and what's included in that? And just fill us in.
I don't use like a PDF brochure or anything like that. I used to just put pricing on an email, but now to try and drive more traffic to my website, I've got a hidden pricing page. So it's like hidden from SEO and Google, but if you give them a link, you can see it. And
what's that link, sorry?
So this technique has got a name, but I have no idea what it is. It's basically, I have 3 packages and I want to sell the middle one. Yeah. I know loads of businesses do it.
Yeah, classic.
It's got something.
I do the same thing, yeah.
So, I've got so my deliverables, the highlight package is like your base package. You get a 3 to 5 minute highlight film, ceremony in full, speeches in full. The middle package is what I want to sell and what I sell most often, which is highlight film, speeches, ceremony, but also a longer 15-20 minute feature film. And then the big package, the top package, which is exactly the same as the feature, but all my enhancements are kind of in there. There's second cinematographer, your Instagram film, raw footage, and things like that. Yeah. But 90% of the time, I sell that middle one with 1 or 2 enhancements, and that's what I try and do, basically.
Yeah, similar to how I approach it. Yeah, I think that's the best way. I think that's the best way to do it because sometimes there's certain times of the year where you get an inquiry and they might go for the bottom. Yeah, I'll say bottom, like your entry level package. Yeah. And sometimes I'm actually quite, because for me that's something that is like bare necessity. What I want to get through, what I feel comfortable delivering. Yeah. But it's almost as well, without sounding cheeky, it's a bit of a easier day than normal because you know that the pressure's off. Whilst, to be fair, and you'll be the same as me, no matter what package you book, I probably end up shooting the same as I would if you booked the top end or the bottom end. It doesn't matter what package you book, I will shoot it pretty much the same because, you just never know what they might add on. And coverage-wise, you don't want to miss a moment, do you? You don't want to miss something, so you always sort of shoot it. Yeah, but that's
you can always upsell as well, I find. So the odd few times I've sold the kind of the highlight package, I don't try and upsell it before the wedding day to a feature, but after the wedding, I've had quite a few kind of couples, even for their first anniversary, say we now want a feature film. Yeah, like I keep everyone's footage for as long as physically possible, as long as hard drives allow. If even in two years down the line, someone that's had a highlight package, all of a sudden wants a 20-minute film. Yeah, brilliant. I can do that in my off season throughout winter. Yeah. And put that together, like you say. I shoot every wedding like they've got the full package. Yeah. So speaking of off season, obviously we're heading into it and everything. So what are your besides branding being something that you mentioned that you wanted to sort of tweak? Yep. What else are you looking to sort of build on over the off season? So I suppose it ties in with branding, but website, be honest, I haven't touched it this year. Just been so kind of busy with weddings and other bits of personal life and whatnot. None of this year's films are on my website yet, and I've shot some great stuff, and I really need to update that. So that's kind of the first thing I want to do, really update films, and then like I say, I really want to get somebody to do my copy for a website, just to try and elevate that branding, how I come across. And again, it's something I don't want to do myself. I want to offload it to someone and say, this is what I want, this is how I want to come across. Make me look good. It's hard, isn't it? Like, you get to this point of the year and all these tasks come in and you're like, I just want to get on with this, I just want to do these tasks. Like for me, I'm the same. Like I have uploaded some of my work to my website this year, but my sort of cover image and video that's on there is all from like 2 years ago. Yeah, it needs to change. Like, I've shot so many like nice weddings since that need to be sort of promoted and be on there. And you get this guilt, don't you? Because you've got. For me, I've got sort of a backlog. I need to get editing and we're working on edits. But at the same time, sometimes I'm like, I need to also think about next year and think about what's coming in. So I need to
been mindful of that, and the best way that I can sort of showcase that is by going onto uploading stuff to my website to show people what I do.
Yeah.
Bottom line, but thank you so much for coming on, Sam. Appreciate it, mate. Where can people find you?
No worries. So basically, all socials, Moss Wedding Films, mossweddingfilms.com.
Easy as that.
Easy as that.
Keeps it simple. Yeah. No change needed. Yeah, well, appreciate it, mate. Cheers. Thanks for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me.
No worries.
Thank you, mate.
Done. Bosh.
We're
Signing
out of
out.
here. Mic drop.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Don't drop the mic. Not my mics.